In this lesson, we're going to begin with our first stylistic set, which is really just adding tails to our glyphs. This is an easy font to do because there's no tails on any of the capitals, and the glyphs that I have selected currently are the only ones that we need to add tails to. This is an Australian font for the state of Tasmania, and so I'm following the Education Department standards. These are the only glyphs that we need to change for this particular one. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the tails and then learn how to set up the features so that when we export it, it includes that stylistic set in the exported file. The first thing we need to do is set up our stylistic set. And so with the glyphs I have selected, I'm just going to duplicate them. Duplicate glyph. And then I'm going to rename them all to SS01. So they will normally have their usual letter on the left hand side and then a dot, and then your stylistic set number after that. So we will go in and select find and replace, and what I want to replace here is the .001 with stylistic set 1 .SS01, and that's it, they're done. We now need to add the tails to them. Assuming you already know how to get to this point where you have created all of these other letters, and if you haven't, I'll throw some links in the description so that you can go and learn how to do that part, but essentially it's the same thing that we're going to do here. We're going to go in and we're going to turn this little bit here into a tail. I'm going to fast forward through that little exercise and add all my tails and then come back and show you, because it is tedious and it does take a long time, and I don't want to waste that time boring you in the video, so we'll come back to that in just a moment. Okay, we've added all our tails to our stylistic set number 1, and now we're going to set that stylistic set up in our features. So for that we go to the font information, features, by pressing the update button, and it says we have alternates called SS01, and it says that we're going to substitute the normal letter A for our stylistic set A, and so on. And so we'll compile that, and I'm not sure that I have my spacing very good at the moment because I've only just done this part. Let's choose A to Z in our normal font set and have a look at those. Now we'll have a look at the substituted stylistic set, and there they are. So we've got a few issues here, obviously. In our metrics, I think that's really just my bad. Anyway, we'll go back through and fix all of that up so that the metrics matches. But that's basically how you set up your stylistic set number 1. The hardest part of that job is really just adding your tails, and it is quite tedious. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add our dots, our dotted version, which is number 3. And the reason I'm going to skip from SS01 stylistic set 1 to stylistic set 3 is because set 2 is a little bit more complex, so I don't want to go too complex too quickly in any of these lessons. So we'll skip to SS03 and learn how to make our dotted version first. To be able to make the dotted version, we first of all need to install a script. So the script that I'm going to use for the dotted version is called Stitcher, and I grabbed that from the plugin manager, and you can just type. Okay, you can see that I've already got it installed, so that's where you'll get it from. Type Stitcher or start typing Stitcher in the search bar, and this is a MekkaBlue script. You will install it and then you will restart glyphs to have it appear in your menu and to be able to use it. So the first thing you want to do once you've got your Stitcher installed is you want to tell it what shape it's going to use to create the stitches. And so I'm going to create a circle, a new glyph, and you want to name the file uniquely so that it's not included as a symbol or a mark or uppercase or lowercase or any of those. You want it to fall under the other category, and I have called mine _circle. In that file we have a circle. I'll just zoom up on that a little, and the dimensions of my circle are 25 by 25 on my regular master, and then over here I'm making it 40 by 40 on my bold master. The sizing is up to you, but bear in mind when you do create the letters, the distance apart and things like that are going to count for something. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy all of the glyphs that I'm going to stitch, and it's going to be all of those, because I only want to stitch printed version. I don't want to stitch our semi-cursive because that's what this particular project requires us to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate all of those glyphs, and I'm going to rename them from 001 to, and I decided I'm going to do my stylistic set number 3 next instead of number 2 because 2 is more complex. So let's rename them all, and now let's go and stitch them. So the first thing to do, we'll change the color so we can tell which is which. Let's go with green. It's just so we can tell them apart from the original set. So the first thing before you start stitching, you want to pop the original glyph into your background. So I will Control A, Control X, Command if you're on an Apple, and Control B for the background, and then Control V to paste it. Again, Command if you're using an Apple Mac, and then of course Control B to jump off the master again. And then we will do the same here. Copy it, go to the background, paste it, and we will trace these glyphs basically to create what we're going to stitch. Stitcher works with a single line vector, so we're going to draw that with this tool here, the draw tool. So I'm basically going to trace it out just with a single line. And then I'm also going to straighten things up so that they look nice and central. This can seem quite tedious. I just want it nice and center. Right. Right, that's sort of roughly our shape. And now I'm going to pop you can click where you're going to put it and then hold your shift button down and click where you want to end it. And I'm not going to join them up to the lines, and you'll see why in a moment. Now I'm going to select it all and run the stitcher. Now we need to tell the stitcher what the name of the component is that you created. I called mine _circle. Whatever you called it, that's the glyph that it's going to use. And you can do a couple of things. Sometimes you get better balance if you hit the balance components. Other shapes, it's better to uncheck the balance components and arrange things a little bit better on the screen. So I'm going to now stitch that, and I'm going to remove now the single lines that we created for the stitcher to follow. And then lastly, we're going to just tidy this up. We're going to move things around so that they look a little bit more even where they're supposed to be, and so on. But there you go, there's your A. Now to put it onto your bold master, there's a number of ways you can do it, but I basically just because you need your bold and your regular masters to match exactly, I'm just going to copy them and then paste them. And now it's using the bold master on the circle, so you can see that they're a little bit bigger. And of course we need to adjust things around a little bit there for that to look right as well, something like that. And there's other adjustments that you're probably going to want to do. I want it to meet that line up there, and I'll also want it to meet this line down here. So, okie doke. So that's how we stitch both our masters. And of course, as long as you have the exact same number of circles, you should be seeing all your instances up to your bold master. Again, if you haven't learnt how to do this part yet, I will put some links in the description so that you can go and look up some other tutorials on those, but I assume right now that you know how to do that part already. And moving on to the rest of your glyphs, basically. So I have completed all of the glyphs, and I've done some punctuation and some symbols and some marks as well, so that we have some consistency. When you see this little exclamation mark, this is telling us that we need to update our metrics. Okay. Now let's have a look at where we're at with our so I might just split that in half so we can zoom in a little more. So you can see the blue outline is where I've still got a background, but you can remove the backgrounds once you're happy with the way it looks. And there's our bold master. We can show our features down here. We have medium, semi-bold, regular. Alright, now we need to set up the feature so that it does actually export with our final file. So we're going to go into our features, click the update button, and that will fill out all our substitutions, where we're going to use substitute a normal character for the stylistic set number 3 character. The way that we're going to name our different features is important, because obviously that's exported into the font file when we do the export part. So I've just called mine Dotted. So yeah, if you just hit the update button once you're in your features window, it'll fill this in for you, and then that will export into your font file. And that is the end of this lesson. In the next lesson we're going to do something a little bit more complex, and we're going to add ligatures. So tune in to the next lesson.